So today's daf yomi is dedicated for a shmir for the Chayalim, myself for the Shvuyim, and we show for Am Yisrael and the eighth Sarah. So that we're going to start on the very bottom line of Sanhedrin Nun Vav Amud Beis. The daf yomi is Nun Zayin. So what we've said until now is we've been discussing the idea that there are what's called the Sheva Mitzvot B'nai Noach, the seven Noahide laws. Actually, we've seen that there is not agreement as to what they are. We saw one brayso yesterday which suggested that the seven Noahide laws were based upon the pasuk of Eitzav Hashem Elokim Es Adam Ganim Leimor Mikol Eitzagan Achol Tochel. So Eitzav Hashem Elokim Adam Leimor Mikol Eitzagan Achol Tochel, and that was the source for the seven Noahide laws. But then there was a dispute, and a different opinion was that there was a dispute over which of the laws. So one opinion says mapik dach va'ayel sach, that we take out two of the Noahide laws, which are dinin, that are the laws of creating judges, and birkas Hashem, blessing God, and we include instead sirus v'koyim, sterilization and prohibition of mixing species. So the Gemara says, well, according to the opinion that takes out dach and includes sach, what's their source? It's not based upon that verse, because that verse of Eitzav Hashem Elokim al Adam Leimor Mikol Eitzagan Achol Tochel, that works out well with the seven that we just had, but now we have a different seven. So what's their source for it? So the Gemara says on the bottom line, this new brisa, they are going, which is called the Tana Debei Menashe, they're going to base it upon, they have seven different sources, or many different psukim to get to them. How do they get there? Avodah Zarah and Gilui Arayos. How do they know that idolatry and adultery are part of the Noahide laws? Also, we want to say, why are they called the Noahide laws? Why aren't they called the Adam laws? So the Rambam already notes because that one of the laws was clearly not on Adam, but that was a Noah. Without Noah, that was only when they could destroy. And that was when they could destroy. That was when they could. That was when they could eat animals. Okay, so. As it says, so what's the source for Avodah Zarah and Gilui Arayos, for idolatry and adultery? Because it says, the world was destroyed before God, and the world was destroyed because of the sin of, we're going to see the sin of idolatry and adultery, the sin of licentiousness. And Rashi says, you can't have a world destroyed unless they were first commanded not to do it. So this is clearly the proof that there was prohibition against licentiousness. So that's Gilui Arayos. Time to be Rishmal, Kol Malkum Shenemar Ashchata, Dvar Erev Avodas Kochavim. Anytime you have Ashchata, the word Ashchata refers to adultery or licentiousness and idolatry. Dvar Erev, how do we know that Ashchata means Dvar Erev? Because it says, Ki Hishchat Kol Basaras Darko. Because it says every animal changed the way it was mating. It was mating with other creatures. Avodas Kochavim, because it says Pen Tashchitum Va'asitem, because it says in the verse in Deuteronomy, Pen Tashchitum Va'asitem, that lest you destroy it and do it. The Idach and the alternative position. So according to the position that cites these from the pasuk of Eitzav Hashem Elokim Es Adam. Well, what does he do? What does he do with these psukim, which seem to say that this is the source for the Noahide laws? So our other position will say, or chayav de kamegali. It's just telling us that the way they acted, or chayav de kamegali. It's just telling us that this is what they were doing. That's all the pasuk is telling us, that they were violating these things. Shvichos damim. How do we know that murder is prohibited to the Noahides? Because it says shofech dam adam, shofech dam adam ba'adam damo yishafech. Person who spills the blood of another person, when it's another person, his blood shall be spilled. So the idach is just telling us katlayahu to kamegali. It's just telling us that basically that they were killing, and that's all that it's telling us. It's it's just telling us the punishment that we give to somebody if they spilled blood, because it says damo yishafech, and that is a reference to decapitation, because of the idea, like we said, that his blood was all contained in him. So then the Gemara says v'idach. Oh, excuse me, Gazel. And how do we know that Gazel? What's the source for theft being one of the seven Noahide laws? Gemara says because it says Kiyarak Esav Natati Lachem Et Kol. I gave you everything, the animals. I gave you to eat like the grass of the field. Amar Rabbi Levi Kiyarak Esav Lo Kiyarak Gina. You could eat like the grass of the field, but you can't eat the grass, the vegetables of a garden, because that would be considered theft. Vayidach, and the other position says no. How will Mishrei Basar does? No, that pasuk is just telling us that you're allowed to eat meat. It's not the source of the prohibition against stealing. And Aver Minachai, and how do we know that taking a limb from a living animal is prohibited? Because it says Ach Basar Benafsho Damo Lo Tochelo. And Basar Benafsho, meaning the flesh, while it's still alive, you're not allowed to eat. But Idach Hu Mishrei Shratzim Hudasa. The other one says no. That verse is telling us that there's no prohibition of Aver Minachai for Noahide on these creepy crawly creatures called shratzim. And Sirus, how do we know that sterilization is prohibited for the Noahides? Because it says Shirtzuba Aretz Urvuba, spread out on the earth and multiply. So that we see from here that you're not allowed to sterilize. You have to be fruitful and multiply. So, but the other position is no, it's not telling us about the prohibition of sterilization for them, just telling us that they'll be blessed. That Adam will be blessed. Kulayim. How do we know there's a prohibition of kulayim? It says that the birds that Noah brought into the ark were supposed to be with their own kind. Whereas the other position is no, it's just saying bring in its own kind, so it has companionship. Ironically, the birds of all the creatures, they're the ones where you most see, unlike in addition to humans, this idea of companionship with each other, that they mate for life. So, okay. Amar Rav Yosef, Amri Bei Rav Al Sholosh Mitzvos Ben Noach Narag. Ben Noach is killed for 3 of the violations of the Noahide laws. The 3 of the violations of the Noahide laws, that Ben Noach is killed. And what are these laws? Gesher Simon. The way to remember it is Gesher. What's Gesher? Gil Yarayas, Shvichos Damim, and Birkas Hashem. So Gilui Arayas for adultery is killed. Shvichos Damim, murder, Birkas Hashem. And for cursing. Ma'askefo Rav Sheishes. Bishlam Shvichos Damim. I understand why they're killed for murder, because it says Liv Shofech Dam Adam Ba'adam Dam Yishafech. Ela Hanach Menolahu. But the other 2, i.e., the Gilui Arayos, the adultery, and the Birkas Hashem, what's our source for the idea that they're also killed if the Noahide does it? If you were now from murder, afil kulunami, then you say that all 7 should have the same punishment. And imishum disrabi mi ish ish. If you want to say we learn out from the fact that it says in the verse a double expression of ish ish, a man, well, and that it says that by Birkas Hashem and by Gilui Arayos. Well, it also says that expression by Avodas Kacham. It also says that expression by idolatry, because it says ish ish is called she'er b'sar l'sikruvu. It says it by adultery, and it also says by idolatry. Vel b'nei Yisrael tomar ish ish b'nei Yisrael menager gar b'Yisrael shitem mizara l'moach. Even though we said that moach is not technically idolatry, Gemara is assuming here that it is. So the Gemara says, Elam Rav Sheishes Amri Bei Rav Al Arba Mitzvos B'nei Noach Narag. Okay, we added Noahide is killed for 4. So then the Gemara has the question: V'avodas Kochavim Ben Noach Narag, is it Ben Noach killed for 4? V'Tanya V'avodas Kochavim says by idolatry, Varm Shebezin Shel Yisrael Memisinoah. It says in the Brisa, idolatry. When it comes to idolatry, those things which the Bezdin will kill a Jew for violating this specific type of idolatry. Ben Noach Musar land. A Noahide is Musar. Musar, generally speaking, means it's a prohibition. You get lashes for. So we see that the idolater does not get put to death for idolatry. So the Gemara says, Azara in Misalo, doesn't it mean that they get warned but they're not put to death? So I'm Rav Nachman Yitzchak. No, when they use the word Azara Shalem doing Misas, and when it uses the word Azara by the idolaters, that really means death. It's just it's semantics. Rav Huna v'Rav Yehuda v'kol talmidei de Rav Amri al sheva bitzvot b'nei Noach ben Noach nerav. So Rav Huna and Rav Yehuda and all the students of Rav say for the 7 mitzvos, all of them the ben Noach is killed. Gali Rachmana bechada. The Torah told us by Shvichos Samim they're killed, by murder they're killed, and it's the same with all of them. The Gezel ben Noach Naragizel is an idolater killed for Gezel is robbery. It's an idolater killed for Gezel Vatanya. We have a brisa. Our Gezel Ganaf the Gezel v'chein yifas Torah. So the brisa says, so because it says in the brisa, what is the commandment of the Noahides with respect to robbery? Whether he actually does ganaf, whether he's a thief, begazo, or robber, v'chein yifas Torah, and also if he violates the sin of the yifas Torah, this is a beautiful captive woman, v'chein kayotzi bahen, and also anything similar to these laws, which we'll see what that means. Then, if it would be so really, all these cases, the text uses the word kuti, but this was the way they try to make it more politically correct because of the censors. But really, it's goy. So that's the real text here. So a goy on a guy, if a guy does goy on guy thievery or robbery or yafas toar, or a goy be Yisrael, or a guy does it on a Jew, also in all these cases, it's prohibited. The Yisrael, the guy, but a Jew on a guy would be permitted. Vim Isa, and if it's the case that the idolater is that the guy is put to death for robbery, well, if that's the case, Nisni Chayev, don't say it's prohibited, say he's liable, he's put to death. So we see from here, doesn't this price prove that he's not put to death? It's just prohibited. Gemara says no. Mishum Kabayla Misnei Seifa, because the second clause of that price was going to say Yisrael, the guy, that if it's a Jew on a guy, it's permitted. Tana Reisha. Therefore, the first clause says. Because the second clause was going to say that the Jew is permitted to do the gazel for the goy. Therefore, the first clause says that it's prohibited, even though it really means chayev. Gemara says so you mean to say any case where it says kol hecha de islay chiyuva misna katani. You mean to say that whenever really there's a chiyuv, there's an obligation that you're liable, he would say it explicitly. The katani, because, but didn't we say in the Reisha, al shvichus damim, that with respect to murder, guy be Yisrael chayev, that a guy on a guy and a guy on a Yisrael is chayev. Yisrael the guy is potter, and we know it's not the case. Yisrael by guy is not exempt. So we see from here, so therefore, that when the Tana needs to say chayev, he says chayev and not isur. And so therefore, with respect to Gezel, from the fact that they say isur and not chayev, we see he's not liable for that. So the Gemara says, no, ha'asam hechi lisnei. Well, they had no choice how to say it there. Would they say asur or mutter? Could you want them to use the language of prohibited and permitted? Vatanya kusi v'roi behemadaka, w'malam w'moridin. That a goy and a roy behema, okay, you don't have to take them up from the well, and but you're still not allowed to put them down. So therefore, we see from here that it's actually prohibited. So they don't want to use the language of asur, but begezel. So now the Gemara goes into the question: when it says kayotzibo, when it says something similar to it, begezel mahi, what is this case referred to? That the idolater is responsible for gezel and kayotzibo and anything similar. So Amar Vachabar Yaakov Nitzracha Elapol Bekarim. We're talking about a person who's in the vineyard, the worker in the vineyard. Wait, I want to stop for a second before we go into the similar cases. Bill, you had a question? Okay, fine. Sorry I just need to train it. There's a little tricky in the price. I want to get it right. So kayotzibo begezel, when it says that we're on 57a at the bottom, Moshe. So when it says we said that the idolater is responsible for they're prohibited to do gezel, which is robbery, geneva is theft, and yafas toar, marry, and also anything similar to it. So what is something similar to the robbery? Talking about a worker who's in the vineyard who's eating from the grapes. Paul Bakaram Amos, when is he eating? If it's at the conclusion of the work at Tero, your worker is allowed to eat while he's working. If it's not while the conclusion of the work, meaning it's afterwards, it's actual theft. If he eats less than a penny, or if he steals less than a penny, so that's the idolater. The goy is responsible for that. So why would you say it's not allowed to do that from a Jew? The Jew's going to waive it. The Jew doesn't care if you take less than a penny from me. Mara says, yeah. Okay, granted, after the fact, he's going to waive it. But but at the moment you're taking less than a penny, okay, he's not going to pursue you to collect a penny. But at the moment you take his less than a penny, he's going to be upset with it. So therefore, the guy is held responsible. Guy begoy kayotzi behen. So what about when it says that a goy begoy, if he takes a less than a pruta, but since the goy is not going to waive his claims to even less than a penny, gezel ma'alyu, isn't it full theft? So it's not kayotzi ben. So we're talking about where you don't pay the workers on time. So that's not technically speaking theft because you already have it in your possession, Rashi says. And theft is technically speaking only where you grab something from somebody else. So one time I had a worker who was working for me, and I paid him. I said I have to pay you right away. It's a law in the Torah. He said, "Oh, not every Jew says that." So you have to pay. It's a biblical law, but the question is whether the law applies. Well, anyway, you should pay the person right away. That's bottom line. Okay, so then the Gemara says, so the guy be Yisrael, so Yisrael b'guy. So a non-Jew on a non-Jew is prohibited. A guy on a Yisrael is prohibited, but a Yisrael on a guy is permitted. Kayot to be a fast Torah. What's a similar case to a fast Torah? It says the fast Torah is prohibited for a guy and also anything similar. It's where Noah designated one of his female slaves for his Canaanite. Ubawa, and then Ben Noach had relations with this Shifcha. So Neragoa, since she has been earmarked for this or designated for this slave, so it's like adultery that he has with her, and so therefore he's put to death. Kayotzibo deshvicha kayotzibo. So the Gemara says kayotzibo deshvichos damim. So the Gemara says, what's something similar to the case of shvichos damim? So the Gemara says, to the case of murder, well, Tanya, we don't learn in the price of that there is anything that's similar to it that's prohibited. We learned something similar to Yefas Toar, to Gazel and Geneva, but nothing similar to Shvichos Damim, to murder. So Amar Abaye, Imishkachas, Titania, Rabbi Yonas, and Ben Shol, Imishkachas, Titania. If you'll find it as something that's listed in a brisa, then I'll tell you that that's the opinion of Rabbi Yonas and Ben Shol. Titania, we learned in the brisa, Rabbi Yonas and Ben Shol, Omer, Rodev Achar Chavero Lahargo. Let's say somebody pursues after his friend to kill him. And he's able to save him with one of his limbs, and he doesn't save him, then he's going to be killed for him, because this is not actual murder and it's almost permitted, and yet the guy will be killed for this action. So kuti b'kuti and a kuti b'Yisrael will be liable, and Yisrael will be liable, but Yisrael and a kuti will be exempt. That's only according to Rabbi Yonasan, but the Rabbanan argue with this, and they say that it's totally permitted. Rashi says heter gamer hu v'leika kayotzi, but the rabbis say it's totally permitted. But here he says, but Rashi, this is what I was pointing out after davening, when it says he could save him. Yochel hanirdaf lahatzil atzmo be'echa me'ivarav shal rodev could go like kata raglo. The one who's pursuing. The one who's being pursued could save himself with one of the limbs of the pursuer, like to snap off his leg, and he doesn't do it, but he kills him. So therefore, under those circumstances, he's going to be exempt. But the other person will be responsible. The Chachamim argue with Rabbi Yonas and Mitchell, and they say that it's totally permitted because he doesn't have to save himself with a different path, but it could kill him even to save himself. So anyway, so the Gemara says on top of 57b, 57b. Hey, if you want to say what does let's see if they talk about it because we were discussing a little bit. Just see if they talk about it now. But they help us. Just sometimes they mention it's not really so practical. Let's see if they say it. And they don't say they don't have it here. And they don't have it in this Aliba de Hochsa. The Gemara says Ashkach Rabbi Yaakov Bar Acha. Hold on 1 second. Okay, fine. Ashkach Rabbi Yaakov Bar Acha to have a Kasev B'Sefer Agadata de Beirav. So Rabbi Acha Bar Yaakov found that something was written in what's called the Sefer Agadata, whatever that is. We don't have it of Rav. Ben Noach Nerag B'Dayan Echad. It says that Noahide is killed with one judge, Be'ed Echad, with one witness, Shelo Ba'asra, not with any witness, not with any warning. Mipi Ish, V'lo Mipi Isha. Only a man, if the man is the witness, not if the woman is. Va'afilu Karov, and even if that witness is a relative. So these are distinct laws of a Noahide. Basically, you only need one judge, you only need one witness, you don't need the warning, but still you need a man. And also it's only if he's and even if it's a relative, it's enough to be a kosher witness. Mishamer Vishmo Amru Af Alha Ubarin, that the Noahide is killed even if they kill just a fetus. So the Noahide will be killed for that. So basically, if a Noahide does abortion, then he's put to death for that, according to Rabbi Shmuel. That's how the Rambam rules in Hilchos Malachim. So, what's the source for this? Rav Yehuda Damar Kra, it says, what's the source for what? What's the source for these matters? So Rav Yehuda says, based on the verse, so it says about the Hashem says to Bnei Noach, your blood for your souls I will seek out. Meaning to say, Edrosh, Afil B'dayan Echad, even one judge, I will seek out, Miyad. So then it says in the Pasuk, since it says in the Pasuk, Achas Timchem B'nafshtechem Edrosh, Miyad Kol Chayad Joshenu, Miyad Adam, Miyad Ish Achiv, Edrosh Es Nefesh Adam. So what does it mean? Miyad Ish, V'lo Miyad Isha. From the hands of a man, but not from the hands of a woman. Achiv, meaning to say I feel a curve, even if the witness is a relative. How do we know that the idolater is put to death for killing even a fetus? My taimo. What's the reason for Rabbi Shmuel? The Rabbi Shmuel shofech dam adam, one who spills the blood of his friend. Be'adam, when it was in another person, meaning if you spill the blood of a person who's in another person, damo yishafech, his blood shall be spilled. Eza adam shehu ba'adam. Who is the person who's in another person? Omer is that ubar imo. This is the fetus in the womb of the mother. So we see from here the source for the idea that if a non-Jew commits abortion, it is considered murder. So the Tanakama, and the Tanakama says Tana debe menashu. The Tanakama who doesn't learn out that the Noahide is responsible for death for killing a fetus. Tana debe menashu. He has the Tana of the Beit Menashe. He agrees with that Tana. Damar kol misa amur b'nei Noach says this idea Adam ba'adam shofech dam Adam ba'adam damo yishafech. He says that this is following the position of the Tana of Beit Menashe. It said kol misa amur b'nei Noach inu el chenek. He says anytime where the Ben Noach says death, it refers to strangulation because how do we know that? Because high ba'adam as sefer dekra, and he takes this word ba'adam on the conclusion of the verse ujosh behachi, and he expounds like this: ba'adam damo yishafech, the blood will be spilled in the person. Edu shvichus tamim shel adam shu beguf l'shel adam. What is the spilling of blood which is within the body? That is Omer zechanak. So that's how he learns it out. You had a question, Jeff? So then the Gemara says, so why is a woman not allowed to testify? So against a Noahide, Masiv Rav Hamnuna, the Isha or Mifkada, why can't a woman testify? Isn't a woman also commanded about the laws of dinim of the Noahs? He'll make it known, God says to Abraham, that he command his sons, Espanav Espeso Acharav, his sons and his household, that they should watch the ways of God. So Tzedakah Mishpat. Beso usually refers to women. His sons is his males, and Beso is women. When most of what Mefarakos or Hamnuna asked the question, he answered it. Banav ladin beso tzedakah. No, that means the sons have to do dinim, but the women are commanded to do tzedakah, but not to come to the court and to testify or to be the judge. Normally, Rav Avia Sabo or Rav Papa, but why? Maybe it means Ema Bas Noach Shahargo or Tehareg. Maybe it means you had a question, Errol?
Yes. Mostly we learn that around the first introduction, the very first things for the male audience. Presumably reports to handle disputes. And yet here today we're learning that some the one women that handle instead of in the Jewish forms.
Well, the Gemara is going to talk about that in the next piece, about the case, the nexus of Noahide law versus rabbinical, where they're going to be adjudicated. The Gemara is going to take, if we wait a minute, the Gemara is going to take that up. So I'm like Rav Avi Sabo or Papa, Ema Bas Noach Harga, what Derek, maybe a Bas Noach, a Noahide woman who kills should not be killed because it says Miyad Ish. It says from the hands of a man, which means well Miyad Isha, but not from the hands of a woman. So I'm right. So Rav Papa says to Rav Sabia, to Rav Avia Saba, Hachiyam Rav Yehuda Shofech Tama Adam, one who spills blood, and from the fact that it says Shofech Tama Adam, spill any person's blood, Mikol Makom, whoever does it, whether it's a man or a woman, they're liable for death. Amar Bas Noach Shazinto Tiharik. So the Gemara says, well, maybe if she's the adulteress, the Noahide girl is adulteress, she should not be killed because it says in the pasuk Al Ken Yazov Ish. If a man is supposed to leave his father and mother and cleave to a woman. God never commands a woman to get married, so therefore maybe she's not responsible for adultery. No, then they became one flesh. So the verse connects them, so she's responsible also for adultery. And now the Gemara goes. We're going to start talking about the prohibitions of adultery or erva for non-Jews. And we're going to start seeing the distinctions between the Jews and the non-Jews in these prohibitions, and that will take us a little bit into Harold's question. So Tana Rabbanan, so it says in the pasuk, Ish al kol she'er b'saro tikrevu agavo serva, and nobody can reveal their nakedness. But why does it say ish? Why does it say a double expression? Ish matam alomar, ish larabos es goyim shemusarin alarayos kisrael, to tell us that the non-Jews have the same prohibitions of sexual relations like the Jews. Gemara says, wait 1 second, is that the source? Didn't we just derive it that it was learned out from the verse in the beginning of Genesis that it says by lay more, and we said this in yesterday's daf from 56b, and that was the verse from Jeremiah. We had the verse from Genesis. We compared the word more to Jeremiah to say that refers to adultery, that the idolaters have the commandments of adultery as part of the Noahide laws. The Gemara says, Hasam there. The word more is talking about bi'arayas didahu. That's talking about where two Noahides commit this prohibition of arayos. But this verse where it says ish arayos didan, that means to say that's where a Noahide has a relation with a married Jewish woman. So yesterday's verse was where the Noahide was with a Noahide, and here is where the Noahide is with a Jew, and both are prohibited. The Katani V'Seifa Ba al Arayos Yisrael Nidon B'Dinei Yisrael, because we learned at the conclusion of that source that if the goy has arayos with a Jew, then they're going to be judged by the Jewish court and the laws of the Jew. And so if that's the case, that the first cause is also talking about, of this price is talking about a non-Jew with a Jew. And so therefore, that's what we're referring to here. So yesterday's verse was a non-Jew with a non-Jew. Today's verse is talking about a non-Jew with a Jew. Yeah. Yeah. Right.
One thing to say about another thing to say when you intersect with us and something, if we are crime against one another, the environment nation, we need to be judged by our lives. If that's the case, we should be judged completely by our lives. But then to have differential treatment for different people in the same court is problematic.
I mean, that's just like that's just your opinion. That's fine, but I'm saying, but that's what the Talmud is stating. I'm not saying that we shouldn't be troubled by that, but that's okay. I'm just saying. So let's play. Here's what I would say. We'll see. Oh yeah, sure, of course. People are trying to limit it. I mean, it's not just that one aspect. The whole aspect of this is challenging because we see that the idolaters have a separate set of laws. That's even worse than they have different procedural laws. They have just completely set of laws, completely different set of laws. A Jew is allowed. We just read a Jew can steal from a guy and not from a.
Yeah, you're not going to agree with you because every court's in justice, and maybe your laws are a little bit different than our laws, and but you have a system of justice. And only if you don't have a system of justice, will you then impose it on you, right? Because you
Yeah, but they're also saying it even when their laws are interacting with our laws. Well, let's just see where it goes here. But your point is taken, but that's another inequity that you're pointing out, an additional inequity. So the Gemara says, according to why is it relevant to tell us that an idolater who is with a Jewish woman is going to be judged by the laws of the Jews? Rav Nachman Amar Rav Lua Lo Nitzracha Ella LeEda Edim Vasra, to tell us that if the idolater is with a Jewish woman who's married, then the idolater does not basically then the idolater is going to get, if he's interacting with a Jewish woman, then we have to judge him with the court of 23 and with witnesses and with warning. So the Gemara says, wait, Migra Gara, you mean say if he's with if he commits a sin with a non-Jew, he doesn't have to go through all those procedures. But with the Jewish woman, before we punish him, we need to make sure it's a court of 23 witnesses and warning. It doesn't make sense. That why should the Jewish woman get or why if he's with if he commits a sin with the Jew, does he get more protection? Rabbi Yochanan. No, this is referring to the case of the betrothed woman who's a maiden, which they don't have such a concept. They don't have death where a Noahide is with the Nara Murasa. And so therefore they're only there because the whole source for the idea, there's actually another verse. The other verse is from Avimelech when he takes the wife of it's called Be'ulas Baal. So therefore, so that means to say that there's the concept of when he takes Avram's wife, he takes Sarah, it says the Be'ulas Baal. So we see from here that the idolaters are only judged once there's consummation of the act, not just the legal consummation, but the physical consummation. And so therefore, since they don't have Nara Murasa, the Dainanan Lahubadina Didan. If they commit adultery with the Nara Murasa, with the betrothed woman, we judge them by our laws. Although Eshet Ish, Bedinu Didanu Lehem, but if they commit with a married, so they commit a sin with a married Jewish woman, we judge them by their laws. Vatanya, didn't we say in the Brisa, Abal Nara Marasa, Nido Miskila. If a person is with a Nara Marasa, if the idolater is with a Nara Marasa, we judge him by stoning. Al Eshetish, Nido Mechanik. But if he's with a married woman, we judge him by strangulation. V'i, Bedina Didayo, and if it's their laws, Saifu. He's supposed to get not strangulation with decapitation. So Amram Nachum Bar Yitzchak, my Ashes Ish, when the Bryce says Ashes Ish, what's it referring to? There it's also similar to the Namarasa. It's a could go Nechnas al Chupav Nivoa. It wasn't physically consecrated. The Lididar Waislo that the Ben Noach doesn't have death for that, but because they require Bulas Baal. So Dayana will Bedina Didan. So therefore we judge him by our laws, which is strangulation. Tani Rabbi Chanina, Bulas Baal Yesh Lahen, but so they only have this case of bulas baal, but not where they entered into the chuppah, but it wasn't consummated. That's not a law that they have. And Tanya Kavasi the Rabbi Yochanan. So the Gemara brings a support for Rabbi Yochanan's position that is that a Ben Noach that was with a Jewish married woman is going to get the laws of the Jews. But that only applies to Nara Murasa and also if she entered into the chuppah but wasn't even fully married. So Tanya Kavas Rabbi Yochanan Kol Erva Shabbatin Shal Yisrael Memis. Any prohibition like adultery that the Jew is put to death for. Ben Noach Mutzar. The Noahide is also warned about. Aim Bezdin Shal Yisrael Memis. If the Bezdin Shal Yisrael is not put to death for it. Aim Ben Noach Mutzar. So then the Noahide will not be warned about. That's right, Meir. There are many deaths that the court does not call the Jews, but the Ben Noach is warned about them. And then the Gemara says, how so? Baal Arayos Yisrael. Let's say the Ben Noach was with a Jewish woman who is married, Nidon Bedina Yisrael is judged by the laws of Israel. Baal Arayos Ben Noach, but if he was with a Noahide, Nidon Bedina Ben Noach, he's judged by the laws of Ben Noach. Va'anu ein lanu ela nara marasa b'lvad. And this distinction says the Brisa is only by a nara marasa. Mara says, why doesn't it consider the second one? Nechshav nami nechasal chupav lo nivel. Why doesn't it include that case also? Mara says, no, this position says that they always get strangulation, so it's not actually a distinction. So now the Gemara is going to challenge Rabbi Meir, his position in the bright side, but we'll take that up tomorrow's daf, and we have Benedict share in 5 minutes on the daily Mishnah. I know we didn't answer all your questions, but